So here we will first begin with the size of atom,
Okay.
and then later on we will see what all is composed within an atom. So composition
Okay.
and the size. So as we know that the atomic size is very small, it is very small, almost the size is about 10 to power minus 10 meters. Now this is called as 1 angstrom, and it's not the size of all the atoms. So roughly all the atoms are of the size 1 angstrom, we can say. So maybe the atomic size is 2 angstrom or 1.5 angstrom, like this, but it will be of the order 10 to power minus 10 meters only. Whereas
Okay.
if we look at an atom, it contains nucleus, and the nucleus contains subatomic particles, protons and neutrons. So we will see the various theories which led to the discovery of these atomic particles, protons, neutrons and electrons, which are revolving around the nucleus. So as of
Okay.
now we are knowing this theory that okay, nucleus contains protons and neutrons, and electrons are revolving around the nucleus in their orbits, right? But
Yeah.
there are different experiments, different hypotheses. So we will discuss about the hypothesis first, and then we will discuss about the experiments. So if we look at the size of nucleus, nucleus is having the size of the order 10 to power minus 15 meters. We call this as 1
Okay.
femtometer. It is femtometer. So
Okay.
looking at this values, you can clearly see that how small the nucleus is with respect to the size of an atom. Almost,
Yeah.
if I say size of nucleus is 10 to power 5 times smaller as compared to the size of atom. So
Yeah.
what does this sizing factor indicate? That nucleus is occupying very less space as compared to the region within the atom. So this confirms to us now that most of the space inside atom
Okay.
is empty. Why it is empty? Because the nucleus is having very less size as compared to the complete atom. So let us see the different theories which led to the discovery of atom. So first we are
Okay.
going to talk about J.J. Thomson's model, or you can say J.J. Thomson's theory, and then we will see Rutherford's model.
Okay.
So what they did, they gave their own hypothesis and experiments to produce a clear picture about atom, like what is contained within atom, how does an atom look like, all other things. And
Okay.
finally we are going to talk about Bohr's atomic model. Bohr's atomic model. Now this Bohr's atomic model, just a little idea we will have, so that we are sure that what atomic model that we use now. Now this is not the main part which is to be focused, because at this level we will just limit ourselves to these theories, because Bohr's
Okay.
atomic model we already know now, that he said according to him the present model of atom. So what is present model of atom? Just the point what we discussed here, that atom consists of positively charged nucleus, and positive charge on nucleus is due to protons and all, electrons revolve. So all the limitations were overcome by Bohr. So we can say all
Okay.
limitations overcome by Bohr's atomic theory. So
Okay.
I have written these theories in the order. So this was the first theory which was proposed, right? It was proposed. That means this was just a hypothesis given. So he didn't do any kind
Yeah.
of experiment, J.J. Thomson. He just proposed that okay, this could be the model of atom. This could be the particles how it can be arranged within an atom. So he just assumed. Rutherford, what he did experiment. So his theory is completely based on experiment. That's why his theory mostly relies closer to the theory what we accept in today's model, except we have very few limitations, and whatever limitations were there, these were overcome by Bohr's atomic model. So the name of the experiment that is very famous, we have to also remember the complete details about this experiment, that is alpha scattering experiment. So now we will talk about these theories one by one. So first focusing on J.J. Thomson's model. So J.J. Thomson's model, his model of atom, it's also called as plum pudding model. It's called as plum pudding model, or we also call it as watermelon model. So why this name? Because if you look at a watermelon, what we generally have in the watermelon, that it's a big sphere
Seeds.
and
Yeah.
the seeds are scattered throughout it is
Yeah.
scattered,
Mhm.
right? So these are the seeds shown with the dotted blue lines. So what did J.J. Thomson say? That an atom is like a watermelon. Atom is like watermelon. That means the seeds represent the electrons which are scattered throughout.
Okay.
Now you can see his theory was completely vague. It was completely wrong. But he just assumed that atom is spherical in nature. It is just like a watermelon, where the seeds in the watermelon are similar to the electrons, and he just said that atom is electrically neutral. Atom is neutral, and if seeds are negative charges, that means they must be balanced by the equal and opposite positive charges. So he said,
Mhm.
in order to prove this neutrality concept, that the rest of the space, that means the space excluding the seeds, that is positively charged. That means the region is positive. Now you can see again this is a very big limitation, but if you look at the advantages of this J.J. Thomson's model, or you can say the achievements, the biggest achievement was that atom is electrically neutral. He was able to say a good theory which relies with the present theory what we accept, and the credit for the discovery of electron. You can see he said that seeds behave as an electron. That means he took into consideration that electron is negatively charged particle. So discovery of
Okay.
electron, the credit goes to J.J. Thomson, and he said that electron is negatively charged. But if we talk about limitations, there are a numerous limitations. Few limitations we will just see. First, electrons are not scattered throughout the atom. This is what we know, and that was wrong in his theory, in his hypothesis.
Mhm.
Electron is not scattered throughout. Instead, they revolve around the nucleus. They revolve around nucleus. So looking at this theory at this point, we get another limitation. There was no idea about the nucleus. No idea about the nucleus was given, and what is contained within nucleus, that means protons and neutrons. There was no stress given to this proton and neutrons, right? So there were numerous limitations. Few more limitations are
Yeah.
there, but these are the basic limitations that we can clearly identify by looking at J.J. Thomson's hypothesis. So clearly this is very much true that this is not depicting the true model of atom. So this is not a true model of atom. So now to overcome these limitations, what can be clearly seen as a result of J.J. Thomson's model, Rutherford was keen in doing the experiment, and he did the experiment, that was alpha scattering experiment, and the credit for the discovery of nucleus goes to Rutherford. So what did Rutherford do? Let us look at his experiment. He took a radioactive element. So what is a radioactive element? Those elements
An
which
element that
emit
isn't stable.
harmful rays from
Okay.
them. So he took a radioactive element, and from this he was emitting alpha rays. So as of now, just remember, alpha rays are positively charged radiations, right? There are
Okay.
many other types of radiations we will not go through now. They are alpha, beta and gamma. So just remember, he took a radioactive source and he emitted alpha rays onto the gold foil. So why he selected gold foil? Because the thickness of gold foil was comparable to the thickness of atom. So if he would have selected other elements, then that would have contained more number of atoms in its way. But here you can see only 1 or 2 atoms were there. I am not talking about this way, but I am talking about a very thin gold foil. So through this thin gold foil, what he did, he emitted the alpha rays, and what he saw, let's say this is the atom, he observed. So let us write down the observation, because based on observation only we will conclude what the theory could be and what the theory that Rutherford derived. So here we will see the observation, which is as a result of experiment. So observation as a result of experiment, and based on this observation we will derive the conclusion, the final conclusion. So first he saw that most of the alpha rays went undeviated. So what was his observation? Most alpha rays went undeviated, and few alpha rays were deflected, and this deflection was by small angles. Few alpha rays were deflected by small angles, and very few alpha rays were retracing the path. Retracing the path as in it was coming here and it was returning. So very few means somewhere you will see 1 out of 12,000, somewhere you will see 1 out of 20,000. So this number is not required to be remembered. Just remember, very few alpha rays were retracing the path. Now based on these observations, let us conclude. So as most alpha rays went undeviated, let us see why it went undeviated. Alpha rays are positively charged radiations. So if positive charge is able to deviate, that means there is, at the center there is some positive charge which is repelling the other positive charge, right? As a result, they are deflected. So most alpha rays went undeflected. That can, from that we can conclude that atom's space is mostly empty. So you can say most of the space within atom is empty. That was first conclusion and the achievement of Rutherford model,
Okay.
that most alpha rays went undeflected.
Hmm.
So most space inside atom is empty. That was his achievement, his conclusion. As few alpha rays were deflected by small angles at the center, which confirmed the presence of positive charge. So both these theories confirmed the presence of positively charged region, positively charged region at the center, right? Because of positive charge only, the other positive charge will deflect or it will retrace its path. But
Okay.
yes, there were few limitations as well. So
Okay.
he was also able to successfully state that electrons revolve around nucleus, because all the positive charges are present at the core or at the center. So remaining negative charge will be around the nucleus,
Okay.
right? Okay. So as these theories led to the development of atoms, so finally we came across Bohr's atomic model, which we will discuss in upcoming lectures. So we will limit our discussion till now. So we will assume that most of the theories which coincide with the real theories of atom, that was successfully exhibited by Rutherford. Now coming back to the atom. Now we have a clear idea about the atom, that atom has nucleus within it and nucleus is positively charged. Why it is positively charged? Because of the protons and neutrons that a nucleus contains. So protons are positive in nature and neutrons, they do not carry any charge, they are neutral, and electrons as such will have negative charge. That was completely expressed by even J.J. Thomson. So to the Rutherford, the credit is for the discovery of nucleus. And who discovered proton and neutron? Yes, the actual credit for the discovery of proton goes to the scientist E. Goldstein.
Okay.
Rutherford was only able to identify that okay, at this center there is certain charged particle, there is certain charged region, you can say, but Goldstein
Okay.
actually said that it is the protons which is positively charged. Neutron, the
Okay.
credit for its discovery goes to J. Chadwick, and for electron we have just now seen it is J.J. Thomson.
Thompson.
So these three are elementary particles. They are called as elementary particles. Why elementary particles? Because it is the most fundamental particles that could exist in the universe.
Okay.
Most fundamental particle that can exist. So okay, if we are talking about atoms, then definitely there are different elements. So in short, I can say whatever exists around us, that is either the pure form of element or the combination of elements leading to the formation of compounds. So elements combine to form compounds. In the same manner, if I talk about element, there are certain elements whose atoms exist singly. So atoms existence can be singly or it can be present in the form of duet or it can be present in the form of triplet. That means in short you can say atoms exist in the form of molecules. There are only few
Okay.
atoms which exist individually, like you can say helium exists individually, sodium exists individually, but there are certain other elements like you can say oxygen atoms, it will always exist in diatomic form. Doubly means they are called as diatomic form.
Yeah.
Singly means I will refer it to it as scientific term I'll give, that is monoatomic form. So what can be observed here, that instead of writing the complete name of the element, I used certain representation. For sodium I used Na, for helium I used He, for oxygen I used O2. So there are representation for different atoms. In fact, for different elements there are representation. So there is symbol for different elements. And why we use symbol? To just ease the writing purposes. So for example,
Okay.
you can say hydrogen, it is represented by H, helium, it is represented by He. So instead of writing complete name, I'll be just interested in using the symbols. So you can just search over the periodic table throughout the internet, or you might be having at the back of the book, and you can mostly remember the elements and the symbols till atomic number 20. This is the minimum thing which we should remember. Till 30 it
Okay.
is suggested, but if you can remember till 20, that is completely okay.
Okay.
So each of the atoms of the elements, whatever we are looking, that have symbols and they have certain atomic number, and
Okay.
they have their atomic masses as well.
Okay.
So in the earlier classes you must have already gone through atomic number, that is represented by Z, and it is the number of protons. What is the total
Okay.
number of protons present in an atom of an element? Atomic mass represented by A, and this is the sum of the number of protons and neutrons. So if
Okay.
we also talk about electrically neutral atom, so for electrically neutral atom, the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons, and it is to be noted that protons and electrons, they carry equal charge. Only thing is that they are opposite in nature, so they carry equal charge, but they are opposite in nature. In nature wise they are opposite. So
Okay.
let us try to remember this as well. In higher class we will require the actual amount of charge present in the proton, that is 1.6 into 10 to power minus 19 coulomb. So this is just supplementary. If you want to remember, you can remember. So
Okay.
coulomb
But
is
in
the SI unit of
electrically
charge.
neutral atom,
So
in
how do we measure
electrically neutral
charge?
atom,
In terms of coulomb.
okay,
So for
in
electron also
electrically
you will see
neutral
the
atom.
charge is 1.6 into 10 to power minus 19 coulomb, but it is minus. So this is
Hello.
positive and this is negative. So if they will be equal,
Hello.
then only the atom will be neutral, because then only they will cancel each other. So for example, if I say that an atom is neutral, does it mean that atom has no protons and electrons? Answer is clearly no. Without protons and electrons, the possibility of existence of atom, it is not right. It is
Yeah.
impossible for an atom to exist without fundamental particles. So they may be present, but in equal amounts. Proton and
Yeah.
neutron are present, but in equal amounts.
So is such an
So like
atom
10
called an electrically neutral
protons are
atom?
there, then definitely 10 electrons will only be there. I am talking about neutral atom. Now there are certain atoms which are charged. Atoms can even be charged. So in case of charged atom, here the neutrality is disturbed. Now what do we mean by neutrality being disturbed? So unequal number of protons and electrons. Unequal number of protons and electrons. So any atom which is charged, we call that atom as an ion. So to the ion, if we remove an electron, not to the ion, let us take the atom into consideration. To the atom, or if I take an atom and if I remove electron from the atom, then the balance is disturbed. So I will get an ion. In case I add an electron, then also the balance of equal protons and neutrons is disturbed and I'll get ion. So that ion which is positively charged, we call that as cation. So in which case a positively charged ion will be formed? The one where we are removing electrons. This is cation, positively charged ion. Why positively charged ion will be formed in this case? So just take an example, 10 proton and 10 electrons were there. You are removing, so initially total charge is 0. You are removing 1 electron, so let's say 9 electron is there and 10 protons is there. So 9 electron and 9 proton will cancel and 1 proton will be there in excess, which will make it positively charged. Similarly, if you are adding electron to this 10 proton and 10 electrons, if you add, let us say, 1 electron, you will get 11 electron and 10 proton. So 10 proton will balance, will nullify the other 10 electrons, but 1 electron will be left in excess, and this electron in excess will make the atom negatively charged, and we call that as an ion. So negatively charged ion, we call that as an ion. So this is clear that atoms can be charged, it can be even neutral, and how an atom can be charged, that depends upon
Yeah.
the electrons being added and removed. Remember,
Okay.
here we are only dealing in terms of electrons removed or electrons added. Why? Because the mass of electron is very, very less as compared to the mass of proton or mass of neutron. That's why the electrons can easily be transferred. Electrons can be transferred easily. So next we will talk about atomic mass.
Okay.
So as the name itself suggests, atomic mass is the mass of an atom. On the other hand, if I talk about molecular mass, that's very much indicative. It is the mass of a molecule. So that's also true that mass of a molecule can be found by taking the sum of masses of all individual atoms. Masses of all individual atoms we will add and we will get the molecular mass. So we are going to require them while we explore the mole concept in the next class. The atomic mass, molecular mass. So yes, we need to remember even the atomic masses of few elements, not all, but it will be better if we can remember till 20, from atomic number 1 to 20.
Okay.
So you have to just remember that the atomic numbers and their symbols of elements from 1 to 20 and even their atomic masses, because using this only we will be able to compute the molecular mass.
Okay.
Okay, so now that is clear, mass of an atom is called as atomic mass. But if we
Yeah.
look at an atom contains protons, neutrons and electrons. But if we look at atomic mass, that is just the total number of protons and neutrons. Why we do not take into consideration the mass of electrons? The reason is mass of electron is very, very less as compared to mass of protons or mass of neutrons, and that's the reason we
Okay.
neglect the mass of electron. But later on in higher classes we will even include the mass of electrons and then get the more accurate result, but not as of now. As of now, you can see we are talking about atomic number as the number of protons and number of neutrons. So in the higher classes we see the mass of proton and mass of neutron, that's almost 1.67 into 10 to power minus 27 kg, right? So this is a different thing that we are using in our lower classes, that is atomic number. Higher classes we will use the atomic mass exactly. But now whatever atomic mass we will use, that will be in terms of atomic number, that is in terms of the protons and the number of neutrons. Yes,
Okay.
in mole concept we will have a little view on this usage of the complete mass of individual particles. Okay, so if we look at periodic table, what is this periodic table? This is just containing all the elements arranged, right? All the elements are arranged in the order, in a particular order they are arranged. So what order? They are arranged in increasing atomic number, right? So you will find all the elements to be present in the periodic table as a function of their atomic number, and all the elements that can be classified either under metals, under non-metals, or metalloids, we call it as semi-metals. So example of metals, you all must be already aware about the properties of metals and non-metals. But this is a
Yeah.
metalloid. What is a metalloid? It is the elements which have or whose property lies in between the property of metals and property of non-metals. Now what does this mean? Let us say if I talk about electrical conductivity, metals has high conductivity as
Yeah.
compared to non-metals. They have low
Non-metals.
conductivity. So metalloids have conductivity higher than non-metals and of course lesser than metals. So that is what
Okay.
we mean, that their property lies in between the property of metals and non-metals. But yes, let us
Okay.
remember few examples. For metals you can say sodium, aluminium, etc. Non-metals you can say chlorine, oxygen. Metalloids, remember, for example, it is silicon. So let us say now we talk about molecules and certain name of the molecules, because I assume that you remember the basics of the symbols of atoms. So if you
Yeah.
look at the periodic table, few elements I am writing like hydrogen, helium,
Mhm.
lithium, beryllium,
Mhm.
boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. Till 10 I have
Yeah.
written. That means if I see their atomic numbers, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now what does this indicate? The number of protons present are 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, because protons, what it is, the atomic number is equal to the number of protons, whereas
Okay.
we are talking about the electrically neutral atom. So number of electrons in this case will also be the same. Number of electrons will also
Okay.
be same. But in case we
Hmm.
want to find the number of neutrons, then for this we must also remember their atomic masses. So if you look at the
Oh.
periodic table, the atomic masses that you will find, roughly I'll write the atomic masses of this hydrogen, heliums and all. So you will find
Okay.
hydrogen 2, helium 4, lithium 5, beryllium, yes. So hydrogen, I'm not talking about the molecule, I'm just talking about the atom. So it will be 1,
Yeah.
helium 4, lithium 5, beryllium you will find the atomic number to be 9, approximately I am writing, and then
Okay.
boron, this boron you will find 10, carbon 12, nitrogen 14, oxygen 16, and then comes fluorine. Fluorine you will find it as 18, and neon you will find it as 20. So from here we can
Okay.
even conclude the number of neutrons. So atomic number, that is optional, but yes, for 1 to 10 you can remember. So now you can find number of neutron, because atomic number is proton plus neutron. So you can subtract the number of protons. You get 0,
Hmm.
2, 2. Just subtract atomic number minus protons. This or this.
Okay.
So you get this value 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10.
Okay.
So this is how we identify the number of neutrons and protons
Hmm.
for which atom. We are talking about neutral atom. The complete talking here is based on neutral atom.
Okay.
So we have already discussed about ion, and
Yeah.
in the next class we will talk about the ways how we can write the chemical formulae. But before that, today let us have a simple idea about valency, which we are going to use in the next class.
Okay.
Let us look at what is valency. If you look at the definition, it says valency is the combining capacity of an element. Now what does this mean? Combining capacity. So if we have an element, if it has to combine with other element, then how many atoms of this element will combine with this, that is determined by knowing its valency, right? So if we look at H2O, you can see hydrogen two atoms of
Yeah.
hydrogen. We can say it combines with one atom of oxygen. Two atoms of hydrogen combines with one atom of oxygen to form a water molecule. So this phrase is very important. We are going to use this phrase while exploring mole concept, to form a water molecule. A water molecule. We are talking about only one molecule here. So how do we find out
Okay.
valency? The idea is very simple. We use electronic configuration. Electronic
Okay.
configuration of element. To understand electronic configuration, let us do one thing. In next session, we will start with electronic configuration, and then
Okay.
using that electronic configuration only, we determine the valency of
Mhm.
an element. And once we know the
Okay.
valency, then we can find out the molecular formula. So this will be the
Okay.
objective for our next class. And let us summarize what we learned. So let us just summarize the result. First, we talked about atom and we discussed about various hypotheses and various
Yeah.
experiments to deal with the real picture of an atom. And here we first talked
Yeah.
about J.J. Thomson's model, and that was basically
Mhm.
watermelon model, and we
Yeah.
also call it as plum pudding model.
Okay.
So we are yet to explore why we call it as plum pudding. So we'll explore that before the or at the end. Next, we talked about Rutherford's model, and
Yeah.
this overcame most of the
Rutherford
limitations
experiment.
as seen by J.J. Thomson, and it
Yeah.
was very clear to the correct model of the atom that we use now. And what we saw, what we will remember, the present model of atom is based on Bohr's model.
Bohr's atomic bomb. Yeah.
So we will not discuss Bohr's model in detail, but at later stage we will
Okay.
discuss in the foundation classes. Later on,
Okay.
we saw that if we talk about an atom, it has certain weight, it has certain property associated with it.
Yeah.
So based on that, we
The atomic
discussed about the
mass.
neutrality of atom, and that was clearly
Yeah.
depicted by J.J. Thomson. We saw all
Okay.
about the subatomic particles like protons, neutrons, and electrons. And to be remembered that protons and electrons, they are carrying equal charge, but of
Yeah.
opposite nature. Neutron is
Yeah.
neutral in nature. Finally, we saw
Yeah.
that atoms, their combining capacity is dependent on the valency, which can only be determined once we know the electronic configuration. So rest all we will begin in the next session. Let us finally see
Okay.
why this J.J. Thomson's model is called plum pudding model. As J.J. Thomson
Okay.
said that watermelon structure is just similar to the structure of atom and seeds represent the electrons. In the same manner, he also said that or pudding is representing the atom, and small plums within the pudding, they are like the electrons, and the complete region apart from the plums, they were representing the positive region. So
Okay.
from plums in the pudding. They were positively charged regions.
Okay.
All right.